Welcome to 10-Minute Agile, brought to you by the Agile Coach Service.
What is Agile? Is Agile just another buzzword used by people who don't really know? Or is it a way to maximize resources, save time, and greatly increase productivity? We have asked multiple business leaders, given the opportunity to save both time and money, would you at least listen to what we had to say? The answer was a strong yes. And this saving of both time and money is exactly what an Agile transformation provides your company. We do this not through some magic formula, but by a consistent focus on the most important task to ensure teams focus on the key items and not lose focus on the main priorities of the enterprise.
And the enterprise starts with the team. And what we do here with Agile is build strong teams, focus on collaborative development, working together sprint over sprint. You start to see significant improvement. And one of the key differences with Agile is the fact that the team decides how long a task should take, and then priorities are set by the business. So you've probably heard a lot about Agile, and we see that there are many flavors of Agile. We'll discuss several of them here. We'll discuss Scrum, Kanban, and maybe a little Scrumban. But we want to start off with Kanban, which we recommend to our clients to start with Kanban when you're from a traditional waterfall project management methodology. What we have here is our JIRA board in which we've built out a set of tasks, and we have them in our backlog, you see there. The team, of course, builds these together. You create the tasks for the backlog, store them. Move a few over to development that you've identified that will be worked upon in the near term. And that again is decided upon by the team. And as you're ready to start, you move those selected tasks over into in progress. And really, it is just as simple as you see. You maintain these boards, you keep the amount of work in progress controllable. The second type of Agile we'll discuss is Scrum. Scrum differs from Kanban in a couple of significant ways. First of all, the work is grouped into 2 to 3 week sprints in which the team decides how much work they're going to do during that time. Plus, there's a different level of ceremonies where you have a sprint planning, sprint review, and sprint retrospective, which we will talk about in greater detail later in the lesson. What is Scrum anyway? Well, Scrum is a rugby term, and it means it's a method of restarting play in rugby that involves players packing closer together with their heads down and attempting to gain possession of the ball, if you were ever wondering. So now let's look at a Scrum board. Similar to what we had with Kanban, you're going to first start off with the backlog. So we've already populated a few tasks here in the group by functional area to better kind of exemplify the type of way we're going to group them and as we plan our sprints. So again, as we discussed, sprints are periods of time during which, a certain amount of work is attempted to be completed. For our purposes, we're going to set these to a 2-week sprint. So right now, what we're going to do, we're going to look at the backlog and we're going to attempt to determine which tasks we should work on during the sprint. And this is something that we'll talk about at the sprint planning meeting. This is done with the team, and the team decides 2 things. They decide how much they can manage during this period and which tasks to prioritize. And generally that's going to be driven by the product owner, which you'll hear more about as we get into the roles later. But so right now, let's just say that the team has all concluded. This is the amount of work they can do on this sprint. Let's go ahead and start that sprint. We're going to set, like I said, the duration to 2 weeks, kick it off. And then if you recall what the Kanban board looked like, it was very similar to this, right? So we're going to go ahead and take the items that are currently in progress, which really wouldn't be any to start the sprint. But let's just say for the sake of argument, this is day 3. We've moved 3 in progress. And if you look at these in a little more detail, if I could scroll it over, right, you have 1 for writing, 1 for video production, and 1 for social media teams. And then the second for writing is going to stay in to do because that team can only really realistically work on 1 at a time. First question we ask most people is what they think is the most important thing to make a successful project. You know what the answer typically is? A strong team. And that's absolutely what you have with Scrum teams. The very nature, as we've noted, the collaborative development and working side by side every day. Well, let's talk about what makes a good Scrum team and what you're looking for. Ideally, what you want is 5 to 9 people. So you want to have a cohesive team, small enough to where people have defined roles and it's not too big, they can work together. Co-located if possible. We understand remote work is prevalent now. Self-managing, meaning you don't have a project manager or a manager in there calling the shots, which leads us to the 2 roles, Scrum Master and Product Owner, that are unique to Scrum. And we'll talk about these roles in greater detail now. So within the construct of an Agile team, a Scrum team, you have the Scrum Master who leads the daily stand-ups and in partnership with the product owner form the basis of leadership for every Scrum team. The product owner, which we identify as the most important role in Scrum, acts on behalf of the business. They present the business's needs and requirements and priorities such that they're prioritized accordingly in the sprint and work gets done according to those needs. As we said, the product owner is the most important role in Scrum, and here's why. The product owner is going to coordinate and build what we call the project or product backlog, which is the total list of all requirements needed by the business for this project. And it could change at any time, but that's generally going to be maintained. And then setting the priority for what should be included in the sprint backlog. The product owner identifies what work needs to be done, and then it's up to the project team to identify how much work they can do during that sprint, and then handle the work the best they see fit. But the product owner directs what should be done and when it should be done. Next, the Scrum Master leads one of the most important tenets of Scrum projects, the daily Scrum, otherwise referred to as the daily stand-up meeting. And this meeting should be a 15-minute meeting, ideally, with all the team together. Find a time that works for everybody. And what you want to do is ask 3 simple questions for each team member. What did you do yesterday? What are you planning to work on today? Basic questions. And probably the most important, are there any impediments, any what we call blockers that we can maybe help you resolve? And this is where the Scrum Master can kind of play diplomat liaison across teams, identify problems that we can clear that make sure the sprint keeps moving forward. Now let's take a look at the Scrum process in action to give you an idea how one sprint relates to the entire overall scope of the project. So we're going to start off with a project backlog. This is your to-do list. This is everything that can be changed. We take that, put it into a sprint backlog, the 2-week work. We do plan, design, develop, test, deploy. At the end of this 2-week sprint, ideally, new functionality to demo. Businesses love that. We're always seeing 2 weeks worth of work. We're seeing something. It's tangible. This illustrates how a Scrum project would be completed. You see you do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit. You keep going along, as opposed to waterfall, where you wait to the very end to see anything. One of the many misconceptions of Agile and Scrum in particular is that there's no planning involved. Well, there may not be complex project plans like what you have in traditional waterfall, but there's significant amount of planning, and this is done during the sprint planning session. As the name would imply, this is done once per sprint at the beginning of each sprint. It should be led by the Scrum Master, the priority of the work defined by the product owner, and this meeting is used to define the amount of work that will be done during the sprint. So you have all the work in the product or project backlog. This is where you build the sprint backlog of this work. So again, you determine how much work the team can handle. The team evaluates each task and determines how long it will take, therefore providing this input and making this decision. A great opportunity to demonstrate success comes from our next Scrum ceremony, which is the sprint review. A sprint review generally has 2 parts. The first step is going to review the accomplishments, review the amount of stories that were done for the sprint. Kind of helps gauge the velocity and the amount of work the team could do in additional sprints, discuss what happened, things of that nature. But a big benefit is the opportunity to do a system demo, if appropriate, to management to kind of let them know and show that you're on schedule and making great progress. I've seen in many of my projects, this demo is what got buy-in to make the project continue and get management on your side. So it's a huge opportunity to basically take a victory lap and celebrate your success. So after the sprint review, the next Scrum ceremony is a sprint retrospective. And simplistically, the sprint retrospective is simply a lessons learned session for a team to get together and talk about how the sprint went, what can be corrected, what can you do for the subsequent sprints to improve. This opportunity, whereas the review is and the demo is, hey, this is what we did. Now we want to look at what went well and then maybe what didn't go so well. So there's a constant state of iterative improvement between the sprints. And this is what you accomplish in the sprint retrospective. We want to be candid here. Let's really mention what didn't go well so that we can correct it. And as a Scrum Master acting in that role, I've seen that be very productive for subsequent sprints.
We at Agile Coach Service can help for any part of your Agile journey. Where we excel is in training teams of strong individuals to form an efficient and productive Agile enterprise. Contact us soon and we can discuss your specific needs and help you and your company save time and save money.